The full release of Baldur's Gate 3 is upon us. Very soon we'll all be sitting there creating our first character. So, what are you going to play? Which one of the 12 classes with a total of 46 subclasses are you going to pick? The possibilities are endless. So go on, pick something. Why aren't you picking one? Just make a decision. If you're like me and have a hard time deciding on what you're going to pick, I thought I'd share what 3 classes were my favorite from my almost 200 hours of early access, and why I like them. Hopefully it'll give you a better idea of whether at least these 3 classes might be something for you. So, in my time playing Early Access, I've played with all the companions, which means that I've played with Fighter, Cleric, Rogue, Wizard, and Warlock. On top of that, I've had custom characters as a Barbarian, a Bard, a Cleric, a Druid, Paladin, Ranger, and Sorcerer, which means I've tried all of the classes in Early Access. And to be clear, this is not a list of the 3 best or most OP classes, but the ones I had the most fun with. The first one of my 3 favorite classes is the Bard. Why? Well, here's the short version. The long version is that the Bard can do pretty much anything it wants. First of all, it has its bardic spells and abilities. The class has some really good buffs and debuffs like Bardic Inspiration, Fairy Fire. It can deal damage and CC enemies with spells like Dissonant Whispers, Thunder Wave, and Vicious Mockery, and it can cast Cure Wounds. But the Bard can do more than just stand in the back and buff or debuff. The class is proficient in light armor, simple weapons, hand crossbows, long swords, rapiers, and short swords. So cast a Blade Ward on yourself and pull out that sword, and you can go into the fray next to your Barbarian, or slightly behind your Barbarian might be better. So yeah, the Bard can do a lot. One might say that it's a Swiss Army... No, that's not the term. One might say that it's a jack of all... Screw it. The Bard has a really good ability gained at 2nd level called Jack of all trades. Like the description says, it makes you more likely to succeed in any undertaking by giving you half of your proficiency bonus to all roles that you aren't proficient in. And at 3rd level, you gain Expertise, which lets you pick 2 of your skills that you are proficient in and have the bonuses to those roles doubled. So yeah, the Bard will pretty much have bonuses to every single roll it makes. Some a little and some a lot. And it can boost the rolls of companions with Bardic Inspiration, something that you later on can recharge from a short rest. Baldur's Gate 3 is a game that lets you approach many situations in many different ways, and the Bard might just be the one class best suited to approach these situations in many of these different ways, if that makes sense. Okay, so on to the second class we go. Let me tell you about my friend, my buddy, my pal, Aladdin the Paladin. The thing that I love the most is that you choose an oath for your Paladin to live by. This is one thing that Larian have made that encourages role-playing in a big way. Here's an example. I approached the Blighted Village. Having done a playthrough or 2 in Early Access, I knew what was going to happen. So instead of just walking in, I snuck around, put my rogue up on the roof, and my Paladin snuck into the house and managed to attack the goblin in there before they knew we were there. Well done? No, because the oath I pledged to was the path of devotion that tells you to follow the ideal of the knight in shining armor. You act with honor and virtue to protect the weak and pursue the greater good. And apparently killing these goblins was against this. The circles around these goblins meant that they were neutral towards me at the time, which I first thought was a load of bullcrap, because I knew that if I went into dialogue with these goblins, they'd tell me that if I take one more step, my front would be filled with arrows. And if I turn around, my backside gets the same treatment or something like that. But guess who didn't know that? Aladdin the Paladin. What happened from my pal Al's perspective was that he found goblins that to his knowledge had done nothing wrong and decided to kill first and ask questions later. He had broken his oath. And after I'd settled down from my initial sense of frustration, I found this to be amazing. Not only is breaking your oath something really cool, don't worry, I won't spoil what happens if you do, but I was thinking about the game from my perspective as in the player and not me, the character. And the game said no, it doesn't matter that you know that these goblins were going to be trouble. This is a role-playing game, play the role of your character. And it's not like extra attention to this thing had been put into this specific encounter. This is no big story beat where the the game makes you decide if you'll follow your oath or not. This is just a bunch of random goblins. That's just the way this game is made. Aside from that, Paladin had like 65 charisma. I was rolling with +5s and 6s on almost every persuasion, intimidation, or deception I attempted. Al could smite, heal, holy rebuke, turn the unholy, and was a force to be reckoned with in melee combat. This class opens up for a ton of fun to be had both in and out of combat. Before I move on, I just wanted to say that my hope is to reach 1,000 subscribers before the end of the year, and that I've seen that the vast majority of you watching my videos are unsubscribed. So if you find this video interesting or entertaining, or just want to make me feel all warm and fuzzy on the inside, please click that subscribe button. It helps a small creator like me out more than you know. Alright, third and final class for this video, and probably my favorite of every class I've played, the Sorcerer. I played a Draconic Sorcerer in Early Access, which means I haven't tried out Wild Magic yet, which sounds amazing. On launch, I plan to start with a Wild Magic Sorcerer, so you'll see a lot more of that here and on my Twitch channel where I'll livestream from time to time. If you'd like to tag along, you can find a link to my Twitch channel in the description below. So, what's so cool about the Sorcerer? To explain that, we need to talk about sorcery points. When you reach level 2, you unlock 2 sorcery points, you gain the ability Create Sorcery Point, the ability Create Spell Slot, and you get to pick 2 meta magics. Create Spell Slot lets you spend sorcery points to get an extra spell slot, and Create Sorcery Point is the same but reverse. You spend spell slots to generate sorcery points. But the primary use for your sorcery points is meta magic, and this is where the Sorcerer class really shines. Meta magic allows you to alter your spells. Like I said earlier, you get to choose 2 meta magic alterations at 2nd level and another one at level 3. When I played my Sorcerer, the max level in the game was 4, so I don't know what happens at later levels. We'll see when the full game is out. Here's a few examples of meta magic alterations that you can pick. Distance Spell allows you to cast a spell with 50% longer range. Extended Spell increases the duration of a spell's effect. Twinning Spell grants a spell that has a single target an additional target. And my favorite, Quicken Spell, allows you to cast a spell as a bonus action. The reason I love the Sorcerer so much is that I never felt like I ran out of options in a fight. With the help of meta magic, there was always a solution. It could be spending sorcery points to get an extra spell slot, or consume a spell slot to get a sorcery point that I could use to quicken a spell and cast an extra spell as a bonus action. Or I solved a positioning error by giving a spell extra range. There were so many fights where I felt like things were going south, but I managed to pull through in the end. And I always felt so smart, like I figured something out that the game wasn't prepared for. So there we are. Those are my 3 favorite classes from Early Access. I hope this helped give you a better idea of whether these 3 classes might be something for you. Please let me know which class you're thinking of playing by heading down to the comments. And like I said earlier, if you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.